So I've got my little pouch pieces made to this point. If you follow the pattern, you'll be able to see this. I did them so that the arrows will go in the same direction. And so at this point, we need to, oops, there it is. We need to put the zipper in. So the easiest way to put in zipper is with basting tape. And I will say I have often been afraid of zippers, and I really hated them because when you pin them in, and if you are familiar with trying to do this, when you pin them, it kind of buckles them because this is so thick, and it will not keep it very smooth as you go down here. Okay, and then what happens is that they want to move in between here. So this will come up higher and you'll sew it wrong. So I used to always struggle with the zippers. And then, oh, I cannot remember her name now, in Portland showed me Wonder Tape. And Wonder Tape is 1/4 of an inch wide. It's kind of like this stuff, but I don't have any on hand. This is the same sort of thing. But it's 1/4 of an inch wide. The thing I don't like about that is that I'll often end up getting it in the stitching. So what I really do like is the Bianni stuff. And what I do is I'm going to put this along here. In the pattern, it's going to tell you to make a mark. And that's what that little red mark is. So I'm going to get this to go down. Get it to stick real good. Let's see if I can get that to separate. Come on, little guy. There we go. All right, so now I've got a sticky little section right up here. I can put it right up at the top. It's 1/8 of an inch wide, so when I stitch 1/4 of an inch in, I should completely miss it. That's the hope. Okay, this is my zipper. It's extra long because that's the easiest way of doing them. And I sewed the little zipper tab on here. I probably should have shown you. But the first thing I do is that I'm going to stick the zipper tab over it this way, over the end of it. I sew it, bring it back, and it looks like this. And then I top stitch it here, and then I basted it down here to hold it together. Otherwise, those ends like to flail. So it's super duper easy. Just top stitch. I top stitch once. We're going to do it again later. So you don't have to do it now, but it's definitely easier. Okay. So I've got my basting tape down here. I was going to show you what the package looks like so you know what it is. Oops, wrong direction. Sorry, guys. Okay, so that's what I'm using. I'll tell you when it comes, you get 2 packages of it. One of them sits here and one of them sits inside. So a lot of times you only think you're getting 1, but you actually get 2. Okay, so it's a lot, which is great. So now I'm going to put this guy on here. I'm going to line up my tab with the end. Come across here. And just press it down. And all I'm trying to do is get the raw edges to match. Okay, so now where I have my little mark that I made, I'm going to go ahead and stick a pin in here so that I know where to stop or start. And for this one, I'm going to start here and go this way. When I go the other direction, that'll be my stop. So I've got my zipper foot here. There we go. And this is a great little foot because I can move it, as you can see, to whichever side my zipper is on. So I can have a little bit of room. And I'm just going to stitch this down, and I'm going to stitch it down a little bit, a little shy of 1/4 of an inch.
A scant.
A scant. And I'm going to start where my pin is. So I'm going to put it down where I know I want my needle to come down. I'm going to put it down with my hand crank on the side so that I don't break a needle, just in case. Then I'm going to go ahead and I will do a lock stitch because I want to make sure that my stitching isn't going past that line I made. So that's why I'm going to do a lock stitch, and then I'm just going to sew right along the hair. Okay, so this is basically 1/4 of an inch, a little less. The reason I'm trying to do just slightly less than 1/4 of an inch is so when I come back and I sew the lining on with 1/4 of an inch, it doesn't show on the front, the first line of stitching. So that one I could backstitch, and that's totally fine. So the way that I do this is that we're gonna put these together with the outsides and the lining, and we'll do both sides and then sew them together. There are lots of ways to do a pouch. this is just one way, and the reason I wanted to show you this one is because I do the zipper a little funky. So you will find pouch patterns that will have like a tab at either end. You'll have them that run right into just the end here. This one is going to end actually a little early. So at this point, I'm going to swirl it out basically so that you will get this kind of an end. Let's see if we can get that to show where the zipper dives into the bag. Okay. I think it makes for a really nice finish on here. See if I can show that a little better. Okay, where this kind of comes down into it. And I think it makes a really nice finish for the bag. And I like the way that it closes a little better this way. So that's what I want to show you. I'm going to measure these out. Thankfully, I've made a few of them, so I know what the measurements are. Okay, and I'm going to make it about 1/4 of an inch smaller than the outside. And the reason I do that is so the lining will sit down in there a little better. All right. So now I want to put my lining on here. And what I need to do is at the same time, I'm going to bring the zipper down here. Okay, so first we're going to sew right up to where we sewed before. And I'm again going to use some basting tape on here. So I'm going to go ahead and stick that on. Get that to stick real well with my nail. And then when I do this, I kind of, you can use the stiletto to do it, and sometimes it'll work really nicely, but I kind of just scratch against the back and push it down and try to hold that down with my finger. I will say the one thing I really like about this basting tape is that it is very strong. So it holds really nicely. Some of the other stuff likes to pull up, and this one does not. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my pin back in here, and now I'm going to again stitch from this side so that I can kind of follow this line and make sure I'm getting just past this line now. Now, if you are afraid of zippers, this is the part that I am sometimes afraid of, is this zipper pull. If I make this longer, I can just pull the zipper pull out of the way and not have to fight it. Okay? On the next one, I'll show you how to fight it. Go ahead and start sewing here. And I'm sewing just outside of that. Hopefully catching my 1/4 inch nicely. I can kind of see where it's at with my quilting, which is nice. And then I'm going to get up to here again where that pin is. Make sure I don't stitch over it. And I'm going to back stitch and then go forward just a little. Okay, now this is the fun part. So now I'm going to lift this up. I'm going to pull.
The needle's still down.
Needle is still down, so it's staying where I want it to stay. I'm trying to zip the lining and I don't want to do that. Okay, now I'm going to get this in between. Okay, this is the tricky part. Then I'm going to pull this back. And pulling it off straight off the side. Okay. All right, so then that becomes this curve that goes into my pouch. Okay, so that looks really nice in my opinion. All right, so now...
And each side curves the opposite direction, right? So it basically acts as
right.
a stop for the zipper pull.
Exactly, that's what it will do. Yep, so let's do the other side. So now, I'll put this one on there, and I want to make sure that my edges are going to match. Along there, and along here. We're going to do the same thing. And I'm going to put a pin in where that little mark is. Okay, so as you can see now, my zipper, I can't pull it past the end to get it out of my way. I'm kind of stuck with it being right here because that's where it goes into the bag. Okay, so it's kind of stuck right here. So I'm going to pull it back just a little bit so I don't have to deal with it at the very beginning, and then we'll deal with it as we go down here. So let's go back to the machine and sew this. All right, so again, we're gonna put my needle down, and I'm gonna do that by hand so I can get it to go exactly where I want it to and not smack that pin. Because believe me, I have done it, and that will drive your pin straight into your machine, which is never a great idea. So once I get to here, I can see my zipper pull is right here, and I can't get by. And I will say, as a young sewist, this is what I would try to do all the time, is sew around it, and so your seam would be really straight, and then it would do this wonky thing and then come back to be straight. You don't really have to do that. And even if you did do that, you could actually go back and re-sew it, which I never did. So I've learned a lot in the years. Okay, so I just pulled it, lift my foot up. I didn't really explain that. Sorry, guys. I just lifted it up and moved it past. So it's now back here. Okay, so here's my zipper. Sometimes I have to use my little stiletto and pull it, get it out of the way, come back, put things back where they were, and then I'll just keep sewing. Okay, so really not hard. The other thing that can come in really handy with that is that your foot generally will have an extra lift. So this has a lift that I could get the foot past, or the zipper pull past, but if I can't, you can give it another lift. And the baby lock lifts it a whole bunch. I don't even know, it's more than 1/8 of an inch, I think. It's a good extra lift. This can sometimes require somebody else to lift this part for you so you can do the manipulating here, but it does work. Okay, and that's really a handy thing that a lot of people, when I have taught classes, I have been surprised at how many people didn't know their machine would do that. So this is also where the logistics of this sometimes can get a little bit confusing, because I'm like, you're putting the lining on the lining. I promise it's going to work out. These are right sides together because they're going to get sewn right sides together later. These are right sides together, though you can't tell because it's a solid. All right, so again, this is where we want to stop sewing. I am actually going to sew it from this side this time, so that I can do the swing out here. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to trim these off. I'm not going to trim them really super duper close right now. Mostly because it just adds a little bit of extra bulk. It's kind of like grading seams there. These will get pulled apart. I'll go ahead and do some top stitching on here to hold the zipper in position. It looks like this when you do that. Here's the zipper. This is what it'll finish like. But you can see this is what my little zipper pouch is going to look like. And this little end here, I just think it looks really nice. So it's just a different way of doing a zipper that I haven't seen other pouch patterns do. Happy sewing!